Touchdown Audio.
Hey y'all, I'm Ryan Devlin, and welcome to the Struggle Climbing Show, where I talk with elite climbers about their struggles and breakthroughs in training, nutrition, tactics, and mental game, and also what they're passionate about beyond the fight with gravity. Now today we got a special for you here. It's a live version of the Struggle coming at you from the beautiful Red River Gorge Rocktoberfest, where we basically ran a mini season of the Struggle in about 45 minutes. It's featuring 4 elite climbers, 1 master coach, a handful of audience questions, and about as many beers as there were moments of insight, which is to say a lot. This was a super fun format, y'all, and I know you're going to get a lot of actionable takeaways from it. So let me tell you about our amazing guests on stage here at Land of the Arches. Mo Beck has won 8 national paraclimbing titles and taken gold in Worlds twice, along with being a National Geographic Explorer of the Year. She climbs super hard with half the hands that most of us have, and you're going to hear even more from her later this season, actually. Matt Segal has established some of the most difficult and striking trad lines in the world, y'all, up to 514, and he's repeated some incredibly badass ones as well, including 514 Cobra Crack in Squamish. Sam Elias is a pro skier turned climber and alpinist with trad red points up to 14-, sport RPs to 14D, numerous ice climbing podiums that include a first place finish at Ouray, and he's also summited Everest. Dru Mack is Mr. Red River Gorge, of course, having sent nearly everything here, including Pure Imagination, one of the most beautiful 14Cs anywhere on Earth. He is the master of endurance, having put down 21 514s last year, including the 14D Life of Villains. Come on. And Coach Eric Horst is a GOAT with 45 years of climbing experience and 30 years of coaching. Eric's written numerous books and articles on training for climbing. He red points into the mid-13s, and he's also the founder of PhysiVantage. There ain't nobody better than Eric to analyze what our panelists are about to share today, and then package that stuff up into some truth bombs for us weekend warriors to utilize in our training and performance. Y'all check your knots. This is going to be a fun one. Now, speaking of Coach Horst, in this episode, you're going to hear an audience member ask about the use of pain relievers, and Eric shares the science on how detrimental the overuse of ibuprofen can be. So if you're relying too much on vitamin I, check out a product that PhysiVantage is making called Redux HP. It offers an all-natural pain relief and accelerated recovery. You guys, I'm a huge fan of this, along with, of course, all of their other science-backed products to help us climbers level up our training and performance. I'm super proud that PhysiVantage is the official climbing nutrition sponsor of The Struggle. Hit that link in your show notes or use code STRUGGLE15 to save 15% off any full-priced nutrition order. Now, the official gear sponsor of The Struggle, and also a sponsor at Rocktoberfest along with PhysiVantage, is Petzl. Y'all, I've been using their gear for about a decade now, and I love it. I was just out at the Red working on a new project this past weekend, and my rope just falls into those beautiful Petzl Gin XS quick draws. They've got bent gates, which of course makes that rope go in super easy. And also the key lock noses on those carabiners eliminate snagging on bolts and ropes. Y'all, their carabiners are tested to withstand 100,000 opened and closed cycles. Oh man, I hope this project of mine doesn't take that long. Look for Petzl draws at your local gear shop and pop on over to Petzl.com to access the inaccessible. All right, now to set the stage here, it was about 10 p.m. when we all grabbed our microphones at the hangar at Land of the Arches campground, which was packed with puffy jackets, and it carried the scent of kind of a delightful mixture of chalk, cheap beer, and fall leaves. The psych was super high. Conditions were incredible at the Red this weekend, so grab a seat and join us here tonight at Rocktoberfest. All right, hello Rocktoberfest. I'm Ryan Devlin. I'm the host of the Struggle Climbing Show, and this is a special live edition of the Struggle here for Rocktoberfest. How the hell are y'all doing tonight? This is great. So that's all I rehearsed, and Dru is going to take it from here. Cool. I'm just kidding, Dru. I'm just kidding. I'm buddy. So every season on The Struggle, each episode I interview an elite athlete, ask them about their struggles and breakthroughs, and at the end of each season, we have coaches come in and look back at those 10 elite athletes and see where we weekend warriors, we average climbers, can learn from the struggles and breakthroughs of the strongest climbers in the world. So this evening, we're going to run a mini season of The Struggle where we will ask these fantastic athletes to my right and to your left where they've struggled, and then Coach Eric Horst is going to analyze that for us and see if we can get some takeaways. So let's first do some introductions. We've got Mo Beck, Matt Segal, Sam Elias, Dru Mack, and Eric Horst. Let's welcome them to the Rocktoberfest Struggle Climbing Show. So I want to go down the line here and give each of these incredible athletes an opportunity to introduce themselves. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you love about the Red River Gorge, any climbs that you're looking forward to getting on. And if you could also just what struggle means to you through the lens of rock climbing. And we will start right here with Mo Beck.
I knew I should have picked a different seat. My name is Mo Beck. I live just outside Denver, Colorado now, but I actually just got here for a month, so I'll be your neighbor for a hot minute. I love the Red River Gorge, I think because it kicks my ass, like, every single day. And for me, the struggle is the fun part. That's why we're all here.
Hi, I'm Matt Segal. I'm from similar area to Mo, just outside of Denver, Boulder, Colorado. I've been climbing here since the late 90s. Yeah. How many else out there been climbing here since the 90s? Anybody?
Who's been climbing since the 90s? Who was born in the 90s?
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm so sorry, Matt.
But no, I grew up in Miami, Florida, and came here as just a kid. It was one of the first places I sport climbed at. I love it. Love coming back. It's great. Get pumped. What does struggle mean? I think we all look for... Drew here is pulling tags off his jackets up here. Just a little distracting. Is that new?
Yeah.
It looks fresh. I think we all like to try things hard. We all like failure because what's success without failure? So to me, that's what struggle is all about.
Thank you, Matt. Sam.
What was the question?
Who are you? Where are you from? And
My name is Sam Elias. I'm from Detroit, Michigan,
Woo!
but I'm living in Salt Lake City, Utah right now. I actually started climbing in 2005 here in the Red River Gorge. I got a job at Miguel's Pizza. And
How many MIGS employees are out there? Any MIGS employees out there right now? They're all working.
no, they're all working.
They're all
they're
working.
all still working.
Please continue, Sam.
And yeah, this is my favorite place in the whole wide world to be. It's the most meaningful place that I've ever climbed and the most important community that I've ever been a part of. I don't know why it's doing that, but I feel like it's a sign for me to pass the mic on.
Dru Mack, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello. This is my first time here. Yeah, I'm Dru Mack. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and I've been climbing here for a really long time. I love it. It's, again, my favorite place in the world. I live in Utah now. But yeah, I don't... Do I know Jack Harlow? I went to high school with him. No, I'm joking. I don't, actually.
And Dru, what does struggle mean to you as a climber?
Struggle, like we face adversity in our personal lives and our climbing lives, and struggle is being Sam's friend. I do feel like honored to be here, sitting with these lovely heroes of mine. So yeah, it feels like an honor.
Thank you, Dru. And Coach Eric Horst.
Yeah, so I'm the old guy in the panel. I've been climbing longer than most of you have been alive. I started climbing in 1977, so maybe as long as your parents have been alive. And but I still am passionate about climbing hard, and trying to push myself. So my struggle is getting out of bed in the morning, getting to the gym to train, but I do both most days. And then coming here to the Red and working my 513 projects. And Ryan is going to take over from here.
So athletes, I want to jump in. Y'all, we're not going to take up the whole night here. Just long enough for you to sober up. So when you hit that cop checkpoint down on the corner, you sail right through. But what I want to talk about here is training first. We're coming into the fall season. We're at the Red River Gorge. There's some hard climbing here. So a lot of us are training or wrapping up some training blocks so that we can send our projects. If you all could think about athletes, the one thing that you struggle with in your training, either something that you have struggled with or something that you currently do struggle with, and share it with us, and then we'll ask Coach Horst how we all might be able to take a look at that in a new way and make those struggles something that help us break through to the next grade. Mo, are you prepared to tell us how you struggle with your training? All right, good.
Okay, I really need this, so listen close. My struggle is focus, I think, because I want to be the best I can be at every type of climbing I can do except bouldering, because I don't really care about bouldering. So I love alpine climbing. So I spent, most of my summer, in the mountains doing relatively easy but long climbs, long approaches, heavy packs. And then I'm like shocked when I show up to the Red River Gorge and get my ass handed to me because my butt and legs look great, but my arms are noodles. I want to do it all, and I have the hardest time focusing. I enjoy training. It's fun, but I'm also bad at it, and I have a lot of fun not training as well.
All right, thank you, Mo. So focus for Mo is a struggle. Matt, how about you, man?
I think for me personally, it would be mitigating short-term and long-term goals. So, for example, if I'm in a training cycle at home and I go rock climbing outside and I find a project, I'm like, oh shit, I want to climb this route. I want to send this route. It's so cool, but I end up tweaking my training cycle to try to climb a route, and then I realize I'm just kind of not training well because I'm skipping, training days to go rock climbing. So I think for me, it's that balance of figuring out when to train and when to focus on rock climbing, and really mostly when to not focus on rock climbing or not focus on the short-term goals, think about the long-term goals, and focus on training.
Thank you, Matt. Very good. Yeah. So another maybe focus here with regard to goal setting, and I imagine uniquely hard for professional climbers because you can always climb outside if you want to. So it takes some real discipline. It sounds like. Let's move over to Sam. How about you, man? How do you struggle with your training?
My training came from a life of ski racing and of competitive ski racing, and not perfectly applicable to climbing. The body parts are obviously quite a bit different. I got into climbing later in life. I was 22 after college, so I feel like the thing that I struggle with in climbing gyms and with training is just strength. I'm not a strong climber. I don't have strong fingers. I don't have strong upper body. But what I do think is beautiful about climbing is that it's not just about strength.
Yeah. Thank you, Sam. Sorry about the microphones. Dru?
I think for me, consistency is really important. I think it can be hard traveling, or just life can get in the way, as everyone knows, and you can just have things come up, and if you're not really consistent in your climbing, then you can kind of have, when I fall behind in my training or fall behind where I feel good, then you feel like you're constantly trying to fight back, and that is a hard it's a hard struggle. It's hard to feel like you're not where you want to be, or you want to be better or whatever, but you just have to clock in and put in the work, and that always pays off. Staying hyper consistent is the best.
Consistency for Mr. Dru Mack over there. So Coach Eric Horst, we're asking you to analyze in real time over here, but you've heard 4 elite pro climbing athletes over here with their struggles in training. What were your big takeaways there? What can we take away from where these fine folks are struggling?
Well, I loved what each of them said. There was a lot of wisdom, and the one thing that ties them all together is, as veteran climbers, people that have been doing it a long time, they all kind of eventually intuited what worked best for them. And that's something that I, as a coach, spend a lot of time working with. I'm not a fan of cookie cutter programs. I mean, if you're a beginner, you're brand new to climbing, you might download a program on the internet and follow some basic guidelines, and that's fine. But climbing is such a complex sport, and there's so many different climbing goals and so many sub-disciplines that you just can't, two people can't do the same program. Even if they're both boulderers, they're different people. They have different genetics. They have different training histories, both climbing and non-climbing. They have different injury histories. They're of different ages and backgrounds. I mean, we're all more different than we are similar. And so each of these veteran climbers over the years kind of found what works best for them. What is the winning formula? And while there's commonalities, there's a lot of differences. And so for Dru, being a younger climber, it was about being consistent and getting more into gym training as an outdoor climber. Sam took his expertise understanding the process of training as a skier, and that's an asset. He knows how to train. He was an elite skier. He can take that kind of mental know-how to execute programs and repurpose it to training for climbing. And everybody has that initial rise their first few years as they learn to climb. They learn the technical and mental skills. They develop some climbing specific strength, and you get good really fast. But then you hit that plateau. And so at that point, what are you going to do? Are you going to quit climbing? Well, not if you love climbing, you're not. And so if you're a climber for life, you then start to experiment when you hit that plateau, and you start to arm yourself with some knowledge. You listen to Training for Climbing podcasts or the Struggle podcast. You talk to coaches. You talk to climbers. But again, there's no secret to taking it to the next level. You have to kind of find what works for you. And we're all at a different place. And I'm a big fan of, you kind of finding your own journey, both in the gym and on the rock. Just because your best friend and partner is into hard sport climbing, maybe your journey is going to take you into the mountains, like Mo, climbing alpine stuff. You can do it all, but finding your own journey is important. And I think in the same way, in the gym, when it comes to training, you have to kind of find your own formula as well and follow your own training journey. So I guess as a closing comment, I would say try to resist copycat training. The thing you just saw on Instagram, the exercise, maybe it's not appropriate for you. You need to kind of find out what is appropriate for you at any given point, maybe a project-specific type program, but also, just kind of based on your experience in climbing, what is right for you. And maybe more strength, as Sam said, maybe more strength isn't the answer. Maybe you need to learn to control your emotions a little more in the rock and not be scared to take that air fall on at the mother load. So keep an open mind when it comes to performance and find your own journey when it comes to climbing.
Coach, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Audience, we're gonna open it up for one question. Sponsor of the podcast, Petzl, has donated a draw. I have one. Whoever has a question, a follow-up question, training specific question for one of our athletes. This is the hand that went up over here first. What motivation? What's the motivation here? External versus internal, or external versus internal rewards. Any of you climbers want to handle that? We don't necessarily have to go down the line, but do you feel pressure to train because of your job or because you just want to become a better climber?
I could answer this. I would say being a professional climber for almost 20 years, I feel like it's a privilege, and I feel like it's my duty to train and to be the best climber that I can be. But with that being said, that's how I feel, but all the inspiration is personal. It's not driven by external sources. So like I walk up to a wall or I see a photo of something and I'm like, that effing inspires me. Like I want to climb that first ascent, repeat, 10th ascent, whatever it is. It doesn't matter to me. I am drawn to do that and train for that. And hopefully my sponsors support me in that, and fortunately they have, but for the most part, I would say if you're climbing not for personal reasons, like you're gonna fail.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Let's kick it over to nutrition here. Nutrition is kind of the next chapter. We've all had our struggles in nutrition. We'll go right down the line here. Mo?
We've seen how much beer you drink, Mo. Is it going to be beer? Okay.
My goal in life is to prove the adage you can't outtrain a bad diet wrong. I think I think when I have a positive relationship with nutrition, and that's not necessarily eating kale all day long. It's when food makes me happy, I'm happy. And I feel like nutrition is one of the things that might have the most direct tie to my mental health when it comes to climbing. And it's, you can take that brick of cheese out of my cold, dead hand. So, that's, that's all I got, really.
Thank you, Mo. Matt?
I'm kind of in line with Mo's theory here is I truly believe you can't put a press on morale. An old friend of mine said that to us, and I think a happy climber will always perform better than an unhappy climber. But I love cooking. I think we should all eat nutrient-dense foods from local food sources. I think that's what our planet needs. I think that makes us healthier. But ultimately, I truly... Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice jacket.
Hey, whoever just quieted the crowd back there, come on up and get yourself a prize. Dru Mack, nutrition.
Yeah, word. So, I don't know. I mean, I have a bad diet. Sam looked at me as soon as we started talking about this because, I ate a Frosty a few nights ago, and I don't care. I don't know. I think it's like what everyone else has said. I think it's good to have a healthy relationship with food. I think there's such a need to feel like you need to be light and all of that. So I don't know. I think that being able to be flexible, like Sam said, I think is important. Like when I go out with friends, I want to have a nice time and have a big burger or something. But then there's other times where I do feel a bit more locked in and focused on the goals that I want to accomplish. And those are the times where it feels okay to be fueling my body correctly, but maybe not overindulging in ice cream or other things, I think there's a balance there that I'm just trying to strike up. Yeah.
Thank you, Dru. All right, Eric.
Yep, good stuff. Okay, well, you're talking to a guy that owns a nutrition company, right? So I'm going to drop a truth bomb on you here, okay? Okay, everything these guys said is true. Nutrition plays a role, but it's not everything. And you can't starve yourself to the next grade, that is for sure. In fact, what you can do is starve yourself to the next injury. Many climbers who are chronically injured, part of the reason is obviously inappropriate training too often, climbing too often, too little rest. That's part of it, but also being undernourished. If you don't have enough protein in your diet, well, your muscles and tendons and ligaments are comprised of mostly protein. So if you're protein deficient, don't be surprised that you recover slowly and you're chronically injured. Nutrition is a factor. I often talk about, training and nutrition as being opposite sides of the same coin. You need to train appropriately, not crazy off the end and not, minimalist either. You need to find what is the sweet spot for you. And I think for nutrition, it's kind of the same thing. You have to find the sweet spot for you. So for me tonight, the sweet spot is a burger and fries. But does Eric Horst eat a burger and fries every night? No, I do not. But I probably have a couple a month, and I have a couple of pizzas a month, and I have a couple of coffee cakes a month. And, I am not a person that says you need to deny yourself the foods that pleasure you. Eating is part of life. And so, but also, if I'm training for my project, am I dialing in my nutrition? Am I eating a few less burgers and a few less pizzas? Yes, because I know that I feel lighter and fitter and climb better when I'm just kind of fine-tuned. And, it's a personal thing. It's kind of like my previous answer. I said, you have to kind of find what works best for you. What is the formula for you? And generally, if you're a beginner climber, you need to learn to climb. You need to learn all of those very important skills, mental, technical, obviously things that relate to climbing safely. That is paramount the first few years. So if you go on a athlete, hardcore diet early on, it's kind of attention misplaced in my opinion. However, as you become that better climber or that more elite climber, well, then little things make big differences. And I'll tell you, I've worked with World Cup champion climbers. I've worked with climbers who climb 515. One of them that used to live in my house. And a lot of others, both in America and Europe. And they all pay a lot of attention to what they consume. And that doesn't mean they deny themselves all the time, but they do deny themselves some of the time, when they're kind of preparing for competition or for the big send. But maybe when they're in a training block during the off season, they open things up and are a little more, less resistant to consuming maybe a burger and fries or, going to a few more parties and such. So everybody's got to find what's right for them, but and there's no simple answer. There's no single formula when it comes to diet. But I think it's something, the more informed you become, the better you understand what you're eating. A few of these folks talked about eating whole foods and eating less processed packaged foods. That's obviously a very, very good thing. And in certain situations, sports nutrition can be helpful. But it's not a pathway to the next grade. Just kind of dialing in everything that you're doing is. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Coach. I got some sports nutrition. Who's got a question about nutrition for one of these athletes back here? The question here is about usage of pain relievers, and that was directed at Eric Horst. Thank you for the question. For the question, you get to score yourself some Fizzy Vantage Endurax, one of my favorite products. Going to help you climb longer and resist that pump. Come on up and get your Fizzy Vantage Endurax while Coach Horst is answering a question about pain relievers.
Anybody ever heard of vitamin I? You know what vitamin I is? Ibuprofen. I work with a lot of pro climbers who live on that stuff, like big wall climbers that take fourth on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. And it's terrible for your stomach. And it's also terrible for your tendons. There's some pretty good research that shows that NSAIDs affect collagen synthesis, which is ongoing right now in each of us very, very slowly to rebuild your connective tissues from the wear and tear of climbing today. And so anything that slows down a slow process is a bad thing. And taking ibuprofen every day does just that. So like all things, in moderation, if your one hardest day of training or climbing per week, you pop a few Advil, no problem. But if it's a chronic use, as it is with many climbers or many athletes, it's actually counterproductive. It might get you into the gym or onto the rock for your workout of the day, but long term, it might be the reason why you keep getting A2 pulley injuries or other injuries. And so there are some natural alternatives like tart cherry powder and curcumin. You need to make sure you're taking a clinically relevant dose. If it's a very small dose, it's spitting in the ocean. It's not going to really help you. But there are a few natural products that you can take daily that take the edge off the inflammation, not in as a dramatic way as NSAIDs do, but in a much safer way. And so, that's something that I think people should look into if you're serious about it. And again, the daily vitamin I consumption, not a good thing for multiple reasons.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. And thank you for the question. All right, moving on to tactics here, athletes. And what I want to do is I have nothing else to give you, but thank you so much.
Yeah. Please shut the fuck up.
I want to go down the line here on tactics, but what I'd like to do here is have you take a look at it through the lens of a project that you might be working on right now. Could be a limit project, could be something that you want to send tomorrow, could be something that you want to send in the next 2 years. And tactically speaking, what's it going to take for you to get that project done? Or what are you struggling with right now that's preventing you from clipping the chains or the anchors or topping out that project? Mo, we'll start with you.
So I try to have fun with what my project actually is. So I would say my current project isn't just a hard grade for me, but I also have a goal within that of can I climb it in as few days of attempts as possible? Because I feel like that's kind of achieving a different kind of benchmark within the grade. Just like, can I just slay this dragon fast? What that has meant is I've spent a lot of time looking at it and deciding not to climb it because I want to keep the day count low. But I think that just kind of keeps me mentally engaged in the project rather than just focusing on getting to the top. I'm being more careful with how I'm approaching it, how I'm thinking about it, how I'm training for it. I'm even being more careful with who I'm taking up there with me to work with me on it. And so it's kind of a way to almost gamify what could otherwise just be kind of another project. Especially something in my backyard where I could just dismiss it and be like, oh, well, it'll be there next season. It's like, no, it's an extra little layer of motivation. It's how well can I climb this and how quickly can I do it?
Thank you, Mo. That was super insightful. I love that. Matt, a tough act to follow, but give us a go. What are you working on? What's a project that's in your sights, if you're willing to share it? And tactically, what's it going to take?
Tactics.
That's right.
Okay. For me, I think I'm similar with Mo in the sense that throughout the year, I kind of jump around from different styles of climbing, whether it's like mixed climbing, alpine climbing, big wall climbing, sport climbing. And to be vague in some ways, that's sharing a tactic that I would use for all of those processes is this concept of setting mini goals in preparation to train for the bigger project in a sense. Like, for example, I'm leaving here and going back home to Colorado, and I have a sport climbing project. And kind of for the last 2 months before, I've been kind of working up red pointing routes, training all the things mentally and physically and emotionally, going through the process of not only training in the gym, but kind of the red point muscle is what I would call it, which is kind of something that not a lot of people talk about. It's this aspect of the practice of projecting, using it, and you lose it when you don't do it. It's the emotional struggle of, oh, I'm falling at the same spot. What do I do? And the only way to overcome that is to do it.
Sam, tactically speaking, what do you think is critical?
For me, I've found that it's important to get hyper specific, and that the timeline is usually a lot longer than anyone wants to commit to. So, that takes a lot of fortitude. It takes a lot of just commitment and willingness to go in an ebb and flow for a longer period of time than just a couple of months. If you're trying to do the thing that's the hardest thing you've ever done and you want to train for that, you need to understand, what that specific thing is, where it is, and what exactly you need to do to get ready, and allow yourself 6, 9, 12 months or more to get ready for it. Most people talk about training, or you see training videos on Instagram. It's just fucking people going to the climbing gym and climbing, or hanging on the hangboard, or picking up some weights and putting them down. These sorts of programs and cycles are vastly more complex than just a single day in the climbing gym or a single month in the climbing gym. Usually they're 3 months or 6 months or a year in advance. So you have to understand that if you're trying to do the hardest thing that you ever want to do, it ain't gonna be I'm gonna train in the gym for a few weeks and go try the thing, because realistically that's not actually the hardest thing you're ever gonna do. You are capable of much more than that, but it's going to take a longer period of time to prepare. So, I've learned that through trial and error and through the long game. And so it's really just about understanding that these things take much longer than any of us really want to believe they do. And if we find something that we're passionate about or that motivates or drives us, then we'll be willing to put in that time and go through those ups and downs and those ebbs and flows and those different cycles to prepare for the thing.
Beautiful, man. I love that. Sorry, go ahead.
I think Sam said what I was trying to say a lot more eloquently, and I'll follow that up with like, I'm going to try something that's the hardest thing I've ever tried to do, and to prepare tactically for that, I tried to go and climb the hardest thing I've ever done, if that makes sense. Like, because if you're trying to climb the hardest thing and you climb it, you could definitely climb something harder. So I think it's like, that's kind of what I was trying to get at, is like the training for training's sake is like kind of this like weird, silly thing. And like a lot of times you just kind of have to go and do things. And it takes a long time. It takes twice as long as you think it's going to take.
Cool.
Dru Mack.
Yeah, so I'm going to leave here on Monday, and I'm going straight back to St. George, Utah, and I have a project that's called Bone Tomahawk that I tried a bunch in the spring, and I love the route. I'm really inspired by it. I want to climb on it. I'm really excited. It's the hardest route I've ever tried, and I got my shit kicked in the spring on it, like totally just like felt like, whoa, this is like so beyond me, but it's something that I want to invest in and try to do. So I spent a lot of the summer training really hard, being super like particular about the things that I want to do, talking to a lot of people about it. And then a few months ago, I just decided to screw off and have fun and go to do random things and eat a lot of food. And my focus and intention hasn't been exactly where I would like it to be. And that feels really intimidating. At this moment, I feel like, holy shit, I'm not prepared for this thing that I really want to be prepared for. And I'm just going to show up and try to do the best that I can. I'm going to bang my head on the route. I'm going to show up as often as I can and be thoughtful of like being rested, but also trying really, really hard. And I'm going to try to prevent myself from falling into traps of expectations. I think when I start to make progress, I can want it to come fast. I can want to, show up to the crag and be like, oh, I'm climbing on the route to do it. But really, when I show up to try the route, and that's my intention, I'm just there to try, which I've talked about a bunch, then I always climb a lot better. So I'm going to show up to this really hard thing and get my butt kicked for a few weeks, and then I'll slowly start doing better and better, and hopefully keep trying until I do it. And if I don't do it now, then I'll do it next spring. And if I don't do it next spring, then I'll do it next fall. I mean, it doesn't matter how much time it takes me, because I'm going to do it eventually. And that's like, I think a lot of us who have the privilege of climbing and the privilege of time, we can just, it's fine. We're going to do it eventually. So that's my attitude. And I'm psyched. Can't wait.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Let's get psyched for Dru on his proj.
Yeah, so for me, my unfinished project at the Red is a route called Silky Smooth. Anyone ever heard of it? Chocolate Factory, right? Yeah, it's pretty hard, and not for Dru it wouldn't be, but not for Matt, not for these guys, but for me, it's pretty hard. And I got really close 2 years ago, and then the season ran out. It got cold. Last year I came back and I had a tweaked pulley, and it's a crimp ladder, a very steep, long crimp ladder, and so it wasn't the right route for me to be on last year. I could have worked it, but I would have got hurt worse, so I actually took a year off. So now I'm back third fall, and I'm just getting started. I just arrived here, and I'm going to be here the next few weeks, and hopefully I can relearn the route. And the secret to sending it, to get to Ryan's question, for me, it will be to climb it faster than I did 2 years ago. And that's an actionable point that many of you can apply to your project, whatever it is right now. If it's past vertical, time is a factor. If you're standing on your feet, you can move slowly. If you're hanging on your fingers on a steep route, you can't move slowly. I mean, you can stop at jugs and heel hooks and knee bars and hand jams and shake out and rest. That's good climbing. But if you're in small holds, stop thinking about that they're small holds and get moving to the next rest. So the Horst strategy on those kind of routes, and it could be a 511, it could be a 514. If it's steep and if it's an overhanging route with small holds, climb fast on the small holds, and then you get on the big holds, you slow down, and if possible, you rest well. So climb fast, rest well. That is the formula at the Red River Gorge. And so for me on Silky Smooth, unfortunately, there's only two places that you can rest well, and the rest is climb fast. And so I have videotape of my almost sends 2 years ago, and I know what the time benchmarks are from the ground to the rest 1, from rest 1 to rest 2, and from rest 2 to the chains. So I have those time benchmarks, and now I'm going to go back and train on the route to know it better, to be able to move more with fewer thoughts, because thoughts slow you down if you overthink a route. And so if I can take off 10 or 20 seconds on each of those chunks, I think I can send the route. But that's going to take some time and practice, and we'll see. Wish me luck.
Fantastic, Coach. Thank you. Question on tactics. One question on tactics right there, or do you need to go to the bathroom? How do you deal with what? I'm sorry? Complaining at the crag. Sam the philosopher, come on in. It's a bit of a stretch from our tactical chapter here, but let's probably an important, as busy as this weekend is. Crag etiquette, Sam?
Look, we can't control what other people do at the crag, right? We all have acceptable limits to which we feel like we need to say something. Somebody pulls their pants down and takes a crap at the mother load. Most of us are probably going to say something to that person, right? Somebody pulls out a boombox and is blasting music. Maybe some of us are going to say something, maybe not. Somebody's just in a foul mood and they're complaining about conditions or whatever. Maybe we feel the need to go talk to them and try to give them a pep talk. The very best that any of us can do is modeling the behavior that we want to see in others. So, how do you want the other people at the crag or the community to look? You should be acting that way and modeling that for everybody else. If you want people to be in a good mood, be in a good mood. If you want people to feel optimism, see optimism, be optimistic, be that. That's the very best we can do and we can hope for. Now, you can extend yourself past that. You can have conversations, hard conversations with people about behavior, whether it's attitude or action, whether it's about, small, subtle behavioral social norms or huge violations of codes of conduct. I mean, we're all in this together and we're all on the same team, right? And some of us have bad days and some of us had good days, and that can be on the same day. We can talk to each other, but the best we can do is just show up on any day at the crag and try to be the thing that we want to see everyone else being. But also, don't be afraid to talk to each other. It's okay to lean in a little bit into that discomfort space and to just try to find common ground or find compromise, even if we disagree with the way somebody's behaving in attitude or in action.
Thank you,
That was
Sam.
the best thing that was said
Mo
all
wanted
night.
to add something to that too as well, Mo.
Yeah, so I wonder if you're climbing next to me today. Climbing, I do just want to add, climbing is a very process-based sport, and I think that's why we all love it. And I think that having bad days and complaining is actually a part of the process. So I think maybe instead of thinking of where someone else is at their process, how it's affecting you, I think instead we can just appreciate where that person is with their day and in their story, and then just have a good time.
Thank you, Mo. I appreciate that too. Let's all be good to one another tomorrow when we're all out lining up for the routes. Last chapter, y'all, and that it's a perfect segue, so I appreciate that question. We're getting into mental game here, and I think a lot of us love climbing because there's such a mental aspect to it. As one of our panelists here said, we're not just picking weights off the ground and dropping them back down, right? We're rock climbing. We're dealing with a lot of mental and emotional struggles and also kind of superpowers in some sense if you harness it right in order to get from the bottom to the top. But we all struggle in the mental game in one respect or another. It could be a fear of falling or a fear of failure. It could be, any number of things. And so I'll hand it over to Mo, and we'll go down the line one last time here.
This one's tricky because I feel like, none of us probably has a very unique problem. I think we all share a lot. Mentally, I think one of the beautiful things about climbing is the mental part can be arranged. Like, of course, when we send our projects, we want to do it with joy and celebration. But honestly, some of my favorite sends have been rage sends. It's the last go before I'm like, I'm going to walk away and never touch this stupid climb again. And then something fires up inside of me, and that's what it takes, a little bit of hate, a little bit of rage. For me, climbing is sometimes yoga, it's sometimes Zen, but sometimes I can get a little angry at myself, not the rock. And sometimes I like to harness that anger as fuel. I'm not an angry person, I'm pretty goofy. But I think climbing for me is a great way to sort of feel all the ranges of emotions. Fear, disappointment, pressure from myself and other people. And I think the struggle I have is to know when to apply those, when to embrace them, when to embrace one of those feelings, or when to say, it's not your turn. This isn't the day for that.
Thank you, Mo. Appreciate that. Matt, how about you, man? The mental game.
Mental game. Thank you. But before I go into the mental game, going back to the previous question, I think the most important thing is just to be nice to people too and take that into consideration. Don't be a dick. Just be nice at the crag. I mean, that's really important. Sorry. Mental game.
That still applies to the mental game.
It kind of does apply to the mental game. It's like, you could be hard on yourself, but like, be nice to your partner. Mental game, I've like wavered all over the board in mental game. I've gone from like doing super dangerous trad climbs to sport climb projects to everything, and my mental game has like kind of changed so much over the years of what's difficult and what's not. I broke my back 5 years ago and both arms and a bunch of shit, and honestly, I'm scared to fall, even on sport climbs. How many people are scared to fall? Yeah, exactly.
All the hands.
It's kind of scary, and I think for me, I over kind of deal with that fear that's totally irrelevant. I know I'm safe. I know, with kind of just going through and trying to, what I like to call, stack all the odds in my favor. So like, just make sure that everything is aligned. I know my belayer. I know my knot. I know like kind of like the whole scenario. I like run through the scenario in my head. Sometimes I vocalize it. Today I climbed with somebody new. Phil, where you at? Respect. Great belays. Didn't fall though today. I was like, hey, like I weigh a lot less than you. Like, are you okay giving a dynamic belay? Like I like run through, like I had to run through that, and I think that's something to not be ashamed of and to be like outspoken about. If you're concerned about something, go out of your way to talk about it so you're not scared when you're climbing. Like once I said that to Phil, he was like, yeah, no, I got you. My wife's like 10, 20 pounds lighter than you. Like, you're fine. I'm like, okay, cool. This guy knows what he's talking about. Don't be ashamed of fear. I think we all have fear, and it's something that keeps us alive. And I think that's a huge part of the mental aspect of climbing, and we can all work with it.
Thank you, Matt. I love that answer. Go ahead, Sam. Thank you.
I just think that everything is practice. Communication is practice. Dealing with fear is practice. Learning how to fall is practice. And generally, I think that our inclination is to avoid or to move the other way from the things that are uncomfortable for us, or that are fearful for us. And leaning sort of the other way from that and developing a healthier relationship with those things into a certain sweet spot. Because honestly, like, going too far, we get paralyzed by the things that make us afraid, or by the conversations or the conflicts that are too heated or too strong for us. But having a different sort of relationship with like those uncomfortable things, I think can really change the way that you grow and the way that you progress, not only in climbing. Yeah, climbing, we all want to get fucking better at climbing, but like, it's important. These sort of skills are more broadly applicable than just our climbing performance. And I think that they're really important to just being, a little bit better humans, a little bit better climbing partners, a little bit better romantic partners or friends or whatever. So I think that if we can practice our skills with these things that give us discomfort and not sort of try to avoid them, we will grow. Our climbing will blossom and we will improve. But also, like, there's a lot broader application to that than just climbing.
Thank you, Sam. I really like that.
Good
Drew, talking about the mental game here, struggles, what you've learned.
I think it's hard to follow up what everyone said. You know, being able to communicate your needs is obviously important. What? I'm younger than you all. Yeah. I mean, they know what they're talking about, and I'm the one listening to what they're saying. I don't know what I'm doing up here, to be honest. Yeah, communicate your needs with your partners. I think that always, like, really helps. I don't know. I just try not to fall into, like, traps, you know, like I've talked about with, I think projecting can be really mental, and, you know, like expectations that you set on yourself, wanting to climb well or to send or to do those kinds of things, and just finding a space where you can, like, let go a little bit and let things happen as they are. I'm not talking about rock climbing anymore. We're just talking about life up here, I guess. Yeah, just letting go and not taking it all so seriously, you know. I'm, like, a pretty anxious, driven person, and just kind of, like, letting go and letting things be.
How do you let that go? Just, you know, like
medication.
Do you have any to share?
I take medicine for anxiety, so let's just, like, normalize
So,
it.
like, if you feel pressure to send, you know.
Yeah, I mean, just, like, a lot of self-work with, like, you know, the process. It's, like, you know, dealing with, like, I mean, we're climbing rocks in the woods, and it's not that for real. You know, I care about this thing, and it's my whole life so much. But also, like, I mean, just trying to really enjoy it and be present in the moments that we have, because we are so lucky to be out here and to get to do what we get to do. And that, to me, is, like, the grounding thing, that when I feel frustrated, when I feel, like, scared of, like, trying something, whether it's because of performance or fear, I just try to ground myself in that, like, I'm with good people, I'm in a beautiful place, and I'm lucky to be doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
Hear, hear, Drew. Thanks, my man. Appreciate that. It was beautiful. Coach, to wrap up the mental game chapter, what are your key takeaways here, man?
Yeah, well, a lot of wisdom here. I really liked what Matt said. You know, one thing he, in his long career, he just detailed was how his fears changed over the years, you know, depending what he was doing in climbing and where he was at in his climbing, the fears can change. And also Sam, you know, talked about, you know, the importance of becoming comfortable with discomfort. You know, a lot of us, you know, we seek out climbing for the challenge, but also because it puts us in uncomfortable and novel situations. And to really progress in climbing, we need to embrace that. And you know, it's kind of paradoxical, but think about this: becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's what it's about a lot of the times, right, guys? I mean, in the climbing world, you know, the outcome isn't known most of the time, and you know, you have to kind of accept that, and that actually can put you in the best mindset to send your project. And you know, so over your career, you know, as a young climber, it's the fear of falling that is most acute. And then when you get a little better and start to feel proud of your sends, then it's fear of failure, your ego, that it gets in the way. And so it's constantly evolving. And you know, every season you have to kind of step back and analyze, just like you would your training. You know, what is your weak link training wise? Well, what is your weak link mentally that's holding you back? And you know, these folks here all illustrated how that's a moving target. And yeah, so that keeps it really interesting. And you know, this is my 45th year climbing. I keep coming back because I embrace that process and the joy and beauty of our sport. So
Thank you, Eric. I really appreciate that. Thank you all, climbers, for that. Who out there is uniquely struggling with a fear of falling, or a fear of failure, or a fear of anything? I think I saw your hand go up over there. This is Coach Hurst's book, Maximum Climbing. The mental game is what's going to unlock new grades for you. I think, I mean, for me at least, it's what it was holding me back. Far more than finger strength was the mental game. Come on up here and get your copy of Maximum Climbing. It's a fantastic read. And that is going to wrap it up for our panel here The live version at Rocktoberfest is the Struggle Climbing Show. Let's give it up for our elite athletes over here. Thank you all. Let's go out, have an incredible weekend of climbing. Let's be kind to one another at the crag. Let's be supportive. Let's go out, climb hard, and do good things in the world. Good night, Rocktoberfest.
All right, and that wraps up our special installment of The Struggle live from Rocktoberfest. Man, it was like drinking from a fire hose of knowledge at this event, y'all. I really hope you learned a lot and laughed a lot, and of course are now sufficiently psyched to get to your gym or crag and put it all to practice. What an incredible panel of people. What did you guys think of the event? Let us know. You can find me on IG at Ryan Devlin Outside and at The Struggle Climbing Show, and our incredible panelists from today at mo.in.mountains, at Matt Segal, at Book of Samuel, at Dru Mack 5, and at Eric Horst. Shout out to PhysiVantage for being the official climbing nutrition sponsor of The Struggle. Check out Redux HP if y'all need an alternative to ibuprofen. It is just awesome stuff, along with everything else that they make. You guys, PhysiVantage is now available in Europe on the Epic TV online shop, and in the US, you can find their innovative products at select gyms and at physivantage.com. Hit that link in your show notes or use code STRUGGLE15 at checkout for 15% off. And of course, be sure to check out everything that Petzl has to offer us in our pursuits to access the inaccessible. From helmets to harnesses to quick draws, these guys make the raddest and most reliable gear around. Find it all at your local gear shop and learn more at petzl.com. Well, that clips the anchors on this episode. You guys, I'd like to thank the RRGCC for inviting me out to host the show on opening night of the event there. If y'all climb at the Red, I hope you're supporting the incredible work the RRGCC is doing. They make so much happen for us out here, from purchasing and managing land, to building and maintaining roads and trails and bridges, to hosting awesome events like Rocktoberfest. Guys, pop on over to rrgcc.org and toss them a few bucks if you can. They make it go a long way. And speaking of a few bucks that go a long way, if y'all are enjoying this show, would you consider coming aboard as a patron? For about the cost of a fancy cup of coffee or a domestic beer each month, you're going to get early and ad-free access to all the episodes, access to pro clinics with former guests, and also some super cool swag, like the stuff I was giving away at Rocktoberfest this weekend. Climbing's just all about community. I love the community we're building here, and I would love for you to come aboard as a patron. Pop on over to patreon.com/The Struggle Climbing Show to check it all out. Thank you. I love you. Hey, you. Are you still listening? Awesome. Thanks for listening. Would you like a free sticker? It's super easy. Just rate and review the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. I would love a 5-star rating or a 10-star rating. I don't know. However many stars is the most stars is what I would love. And maybe a kind word if you've got a second. Do that. It's a huge, huge help to get the word out about the show. And I'll send you a sticker. The Struggle is a proud member of the Plugtone Audio Collective and is carbon neutral in partnership with the Honnold Foundation. I'm your host, Ryan Devlin, and this show was produced by me with help from the fine folks at Rocktoberfest. All right, let's climb hard and do good things in the world.